Good day and welcome to another edition of One-on-One with Swope Health. I'm your host, Eric Wesson, and joining me today for our show is none other than Mayor Quinton Lucas, the mayor of Kansas City. Mayor Lucas, thanks so much for joining us today.
It is great to be with you.
So, what is it that you have that people would not know about you? What is it like? One of the things that I always thought was really interesting about you that most people wouldn't know about is that you played soccer.
Yeah.
And you were
I wasn't bad either. Yeah, I mean, what would people not know about me? That you might predict that I love boxing, but for a little while I actually boxed too.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so I was actually good at soccer. I was never that good at boxing, but I like kind of get some aggression out. Good workout, all that sort of stuff. But I don't quite do that as much anymore. But I feel like if I get in a fight, I can help myself out. I don't know if I'm ready to box you, brother, but I can do a little bit.
Really? So grew up here in Kansas City.
Yes, sir.
Parade Park, or was it someplace
You know
else?
what, man? You know the story. We moved all the time, but just about anywhere in East Kansas City, I did a little bit of time. So, we were. In that area, we were down by Southeast High School. We're off 350 Highway by the motel. I got to see a lot of the city, a lot of its positives, but a few of the negatives along the way too.
So did you ever think you'd get into politics?
I always found politics really interesting. I think that I thought it was almost unattainable, right? So when I was coming up, we had Mayor Berkeley and Mayor Cleaver. And they just seemed like kings, kind of particularly back then, you didn't have all these different media sources and all of that. So you watch the TV news, you see him on there and you're like, man, he's famous. So I don't know if I ever quite saw that, but I always knew that I would want to be involved in public service.
So when did you decide you wanted to get into politics? Because you went to law school.
I did. Well, when I went to law school during those years, I was kind of like, man, you can make a lot of money doing this. So I liked it for a while, good money, good cases coming in, everything else, good clients like Swope Health. Y'all weren't really a client. I'm just saying that. Clients like them. But I think I got tired of seeing things done the same way again and again and again. So many, and you know this story, Eric, because I think we both lived it. You know that maybe it was hard work, maybe it was luck, but things worked out so I could be in this position in life to take care of my family, take care of myself, whatever else. But I saw a bunch of other people for whom things went another way. And I didn't feel comfortable just driving down the street being like, man, it's always been like that at 52nd and Bell Fountain. And those sorts of things. And so that's what inspired me. And it was probably, maybe 4 years before I ran for city council that I started being like, maybe I can do something, make a difference in the world.
So if you looked at the health issues that take place within Kansas City and specifically the Black community, what would be one of the things that you think as mayor that you could change?
I think we need to look at a more holistic approach to healthcare. And what I mean by that is not just in the treatment and provision of people once they're presenting concerns, but things that make them healthier long term, even before that. What are we doing to help support healthy eating, new grocery stores throughout our urban core? And I'm going to tell you, and you know this because you report on it. I was cruising Blue Ridge the other day where a lot of our community lives now. And seeing that they've had grocery stores closed down over the last 20 years, they don't have access to healthy food, and you see the impact that it has on a community. So I think what I would do is try to make sure that we are looking at things like how does the environment around you, even economically, impact how successful you can be? How do we make sure that we have good parks, that our things are or matching what you may see in any other part of the city? And then that I think healthcare is very accessible. Every time I end up in Johnson County, I'm always like, dang, they got a new hospital here and another clinic right here. And half the time, my own appointments, they're trying to say, oh, you got to go out to our, South Leawood location for this. So I'm like, so what does that mean for somebody who's in the city and doesn't have that same level of access? And frankly, it's why FQHCs like Swope Health are so important. And it's why making sure that we, I think, share their presence is so important too to what we do each day.
So when you talk about health and you talk about food and grocery stores, during your term, 2 new grocery stores, Swope, well, not Swope, but Community Builders has taken over the grocery store here and the one on Linwood. So if you could change anything with that as far as fresh fruits and vegetables and that kind of thing, what do you think you would tip the scales toward?
A few things that I think if they let me run the grocery store, even though nobody want me picking out all the food, it'd just be Cheez-Its. I think that if I could change one thing, I think I would try to have more, and I know they're working hard, so this is not to knock them.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think locally grown produce, those locally sourced things, some of the things that folks will in our fancier neighborhoods pay $20 for, something special. When you're like, that's $5 at a normal place. I mean, just making sure we have that level of class to it. Because I remember even when I was growing up, we didn't go to this one, but we had friends from my neighborhoods that would go over to the Brookside Price Chopper because they just thought it was better.
Right.
And, every now and then you walk over there and you do see some things. You're like, I didn't even know that existed. And so
what you mean, meat is supposed to look like that?
Right. And so that's why, I think I would try to do that. Another thing, though, that I would do, I would build them in a different way. I would make every grocery store kind of even closer to a neighborhood. So a kid, like when I was growing up, and I wonder if you had that same thing. Did your mama ever send you to the corner store or the liquor store to go pick up milk or potato chips or whatever? And, I'm just kind of like, why couldn't that be a grocery store? Why couldn't that be something, why is it just that the liquor store was the one was always down the street from?
Right.
So trying to even as much as building those stores so they're actually on the corner. So that like somebody's walking by and you can't miss it, that you can't miss the food in the windows, you can't miss the balloons or whatever else. I would try to change that orientation because I think it would let people know that it's more for them than just kind of going through that sea of a parking lot.
So in that, when I was growing up, I grew up right up the street in Vineyard Gardens. And I know we had a Kroger store here that sits exactly where Swope Health is. And there were Spartans down the street. But let's shift to your tenure as mayor, your first term as mayor. Of course, you had the COVID hit, right? When you were trying to get the ball rolling.
Right.
But what have you wanted to do that you haven't been able to do in your first term that we can look forward to you doing in your second term?
I have, and I'm proud of this, and I'll explain what I mean by this later, but I have been proud to govern as a black mayor, unabashedly so. I think that we have been able to, for example, even things like street resurfacing. Right, we redid Cleveland. We're redoing Prospect up around 18th, 20th Street. We are showing that city resources can be expended in a way that everybody in the city gets to be a part of it. It has not just been a downtown plaza conversation. That has gotten some people downtown on the plaza mad at me, by the way. The last guy and the other way, all just, but I'm like, if the city's not healthy, then we have population leaving, then we're just chasing problems long term. So for me, I think I want to frankly just continue an equitable allocation of our resources, continue trying to truly economically develop in areas that we haven't forever. I mean, I have a very clear dream, and that is that Prospect between 63rd Street and what we used to call 47th, Cleaver 2, is redone altogether. Why is it that you can have tens of thousands of cars a block away every day and you got nowhere to buy anything really for much of that stretch? From the drugstore, you got the chicken place, you got another restaurant in there, then otherwise you ain't got much. I mean, my goal is to make sure that you're doing that, because the thing that developers always try to tell you is we don't have the demographics to do it. But then when I walk the neighborhoods, and I do that some weekends just randomly I'll take the kid out, I'll just walk around. And I'm like, there's still people here. There are people that spend money. And our people are driving to Lee's Summit, the Northland, Kansas, what have you, to be able to get groceries, to be able to get Tylenol, right? That's something that needs to change. We haven't gotten as far as I would have liked. And a big development I'm excited about over at 63rd and Prospect, we're finally trying to get that moving too. So, I mean, I think the tools are there. We got a hiccup for about 2 years, but I think we're getting back to it.
And so, what about committees? Because you had a committee, racial equality.
We did.
Whatever happened with that?
Well, he asks some hard questions sometimes, but look, I'm not a big committee and task force person all the time. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they serve a purpose, but in too many cases, and you've seen this, I've seen it. You'll see somebody announces a big committee, and then even if they come up with a report, they ignore it or they shelve it.
Right.
And so on this one, we did have a committee on, I think, racial equity. But one of the recommendations was to hire a chief equity officer. We have not done that yet as a city.
Okay.
Some of that is because people couldn't agree on who they wanted to be there, what type of diversity should be represented. And so my bigger thing is, we need to live those principles every day. Not that it's, I welcome a DEI expert, mm-hmm. but I also think that I need to, city council needs to, city manager needs to be thinking about how we can do better. And I'll give one example because folks sometimes get on me not thinking I'm talking about other groups. We don't have enough Latinos at City Hall right now. Mm-hmm. Right? There is no Spanish speaker in my office right now. I think that's a travesty. And that's something that, I hit myself on and saying we got to do better. Mm-hmm. And that's where we need to try to make change, not just saying we appointed some group.
Mm-hmm. What about the committee for, equity and community engagement?
Yeah.
That's an interesting one because it kind of seems like it's the same thing that's already being done through CDBG. Right. So what's going to be different with that, and how is that going to really engage the community?
I think that a lot of it is work that we just have to do. We being the elected officials, we like to pretend sometimes, and I don't mean this as a criticism of anybody because I do it sometimes too. We like to pretend that we can task this other group of people to listen to the people and then give us recommendations and we get things done. Don't work that way. I apologize for being late today. I'm going to be early for something in the future. But if you're doing your job, you're talking to people. Mm-hmm. They're bumping into you. They pulling you. They mad at you. Mm-hmm. I was at the hot dog festival and this lady's talking about what you going to do about them homeless down the street from me. And of course you have to bring it in a positive way, but I have appointed a task force, but I can't just be, well, man, we appointed a task force. They're going to give you an answer in about 3 months, and then we're going to see what happens. That doesn't work. I need to do the work. I need to listen. And so for me, I think that it's always good to get ideas from the public. I'm with that. I think in public safety, we've done some of that. We have an anti-violence task force, which gives me ideas that I didn't know before. But the other part is we need to get those ideas. Then we, the electeds, the mayor, need to go back out into the public and make sure that we're sharing with people what we think are the best solutions.
Do you think sometimes it gets bogged down in that process of bureaucracy and paperwork and brilliant ideas, and everybody's got a better idea, a better way to invent the wheel? So do you think sometimes that's why people disengage? Because it's too much paperwork? Well,
so right now, Kansas City, Missouri has probably 140 boards and commissions. What normal person trying to survive is ever going to be able to keep track? Mm-hmm. They can't even, heck, it's hard enough to keep track of the police board. I can't keep track of them, right? If you were to do police board, parks board, those are the two everybody's probably heard of. Mm-hmm. And you still, if I ask somebody on the street, when do they meet? They'd be like, well, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Who's on it? I don't know. Maybe they know Tolbert, maybe. But, on the whole, I think that's where we need to actually try to say and make it easier for the public to follow what we're doing. We need to say, hey, this is a big issue coming up. Be informed. I mean, the abortion question recently in Kansas was an interesting test case in it because everybody knew about it and almost a whole bunch of people voted. Whereas half the reason we don't get anybody to turn out in municipal elections is because they don't even know what we do.
Right. Right.
So, on that, I think we can do better. And a lot of that is, again, us sharing what we're working on, where we're improving, and importantly, not hiding from the problems in Kansas City either.
You're watching One-on-One with Swope. I'm your host, Eric Wesson. My guest today is none other than Mayor Quinton Lucas, and we're just kicking it today. No scripts, no pre-asked questions or pre-submitted questions. We're just strictly off the cuff, so I hope you're enjoying it. Another question I have, crime. That's everybody's subject. Crime, homicides. As of this moment, we're at 95. Is there anything that we should be looking at doing that's not being done?
We need to expand our efforts on violence prevention and outreach to the people who've been shot. And to me, I don't care what program it is. We've had 800 different programs, it feels like, in the last 10 years. Everything that should happen in the city, and every time somebody presents and they've been shot and survive, we should have somebody, and not just an officer in uniform or not just an officer in khakis and a polo, but somebody who says, hey, you need something. There's a likelihood of retaliation. What can happen? How can we stop it? We're here to try to save your life. I know you're mad. Once you get bandaged up, you may try to go back and get retaliation, but we need to make sure we're intervening in that cycle right there to make sure somebody has a different path. Because just warning people of jail sentences, okay, I'll do my time. I'm gonna be back out.
Right.
Warning them of kind of arbitrarily saying that your life will be shortened or this, that, and the other, that isn't effective. We need to make sure that we are on people and frankly with ambassadors and others from the community. Somebody I'll give a compliment to is Candace Wesson, who does some outstanding work. And I talked before about stuff I don't know. I'm not a woman, right? I don't know what it's like being a woman in our community dealing with some of the issues. But having somebody who's real and can level with people and can say, look, these are resources I got for you. And you can be mad at the world, you can do whatever. I'm gonna help you survive. I'm gonna help your babies survive. We need to multiply that. And I think you need a lot more of that than respectfully those of us in suits showing up and saying that we have a new plan and we have all the solutions.
Yeah. And that's Candace Wesson, the Help KC. I happen to know her. And so as we wrap up, another term, hopefully.
Yeah, I think so.
Are you already in election mode? So what's it looking like? What are some of the feedback that you're getting from people about what they want to see you do differently?
And I know you covered it. They tried to recall me, 5 times?
Exactly.
Are they still trying?
Exactly.
And it was funny. And you know what? I gained so much respect for a lot of parts of our community, and they'd be people who stopped me. They'd be like, dang, they on you. When we were trying to keep people safe from COVID, working on folks getting their shots, masks, what have you. And by the way, I commend Swope Health because, first of all, my mother got her vaccination here. They stepped up at a time when a lot of our other institutions were either inoculating just their own staff or just their patients. And I think Swope understood the mission, which is to be a true advocate for the public. But, I feel good with where we are. We've raised a lot of money. Not that money's everything, but, we were able to get to a point where I think somebody would have a lot of catching up to do in that regard. And a lot of things you can disagree with me on, a lot. I disagree with myself on a lot of things. But we're out every day. I'm talking to people. I'm at different events. I try to be in every spot of the city. I have never forgot the community I'm from, and I never will. But I think that we are in a position where folks can say, you know what, they're working to make Kansas City better, whether it's the roads, whether it's getting some accountability from our police board, whether it's picking the fights that we need to with the state legislature to make sure that, they're not taking away all our authority to make important choices for this community. And I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of the development that I think we will continue to see come. And I just expect us to have a good other 4 years, and then after that, I'm going to have to find a job. So I hope, you have one for me at some point.
Sure. I was thinking, the Democrats need somebody to run for governor. Anyway, you've been watching One-on-One with Swope Health. I am your host, Eric Wesson. I want to thank our Mayor, Quinton Lucas, for joining us today. And thank you for tuning in. As always, I have the greatest audience in the world. Till next week, peace.